In today's tier list, I'll be ranking 85 Melee Cavalry units from SSS down to E. Unlike other tier lists where I focus on one role for the heroes, in this one I'll be looking at the following roles. Nuke, how much damage the hero can put out and how well they match up against meta threats. Tank, how well this unit can tank in the current meta, either as an omni tank or just as a melee tank. Support, what unique powerful support effects the hero can offer. Gale Force, how well the hero performs as a Gale Force initiator or Gale Force cleanup unit. And lastly, Hit and Run, how well the unit can snipe an enemy and escape. Heroes will not be ranked by how well they perform in all roles, instead I'll just focus on the ones they excel in. Also, I will be judging how well they perform in that role in the overall game sense. So just because the hero is the best cavalry tank in the game, they won't be getting a triple S, because cavalry tanks do not perform as well as infantry units or especially armor units as tanks. Lastly, I will not be ranking every melee cavalry unit in the game as the tier list would get too bloated. Instead, I'll be focusing on heroes with preference weapons or access to rearmed lift's arcane weapon, as at the time of the recording that is the only arcane weapon available. In the future, when more arcane weapons become available, I will be making separate tier lists for those weapons, so look there if you are interested to see how a specific hero uses it. Last thing before we start is that I will not be going over every hero on this tier list, as this video would last forever. So I'll be going over general information by tier and jump into a more detailed analysis for the higher tiers. Let's get started. E tier is full of Gen 1 cavalry units who do not have access to an arcane weapon, have bad preference weapons, and outdated stat lines. They are just cavalry units who outperform these units in essentially every single circumstance. D tier is cavalry units with bad preference weapons or weapons that offer support effects but are not up to the high standards for today's meta game. The last of a cavalry in D rank are the tank Cavs. An example of this is Zeke and Camus. Unfortunately, cavalry units do not make the best tanks as they not only have lower BST than other movement types, but they also do not have access to a lot of the premium skills that infantry units or armor units do. C tier is mostly composed of two types of cavalry. First, cavalry units who have decent preference weapons, but they aren't powerful enough to keep up with other cavalry units. Second are cavalry units who have access to rearmed lift's arcane sword, but don't make as good use of it as other sword calves who will be in higher tiers. B tier is where we reach some standout cavalry units. These cavalry units have some powerful effects that can make them stand out amongst the competition, but they all do have major weaknesses, which can hold them back. There are also great free-to-play cavalry in this tier, like Patrine, Finn, Kent, Bertram, Kemp, and Lex. A lot of these units either don't have the firepower they once did, or are waiting for refines, or their kit isn't ideal. The best example of this is Freya, who wants to play the role of a tank with her built-in distant counter and damage reduction, but unfortunately is a mythic, which means she doesn't have access to mythic buffs, which definitely holds her back. Now we have reached A tier. This is where cavalry units really step up in quality. These cavalry are phenomenal heroes with unique, powerful effects and can perform extremely well in one or more roles. In my opinion, these cavalry units are worth investing into if they are your favorite, or if you need a hero to fit into that role they excel at. All the heroes in this tier are a similar power level and are organized by color. Let's start off with Summer Freya. Summer Freya is a knockout in more than one way. Aside from her art, Summer Freya is a colorless beast unit who can be a powerful mixed phase unit. Her high speed allows her to take advantage of her built-in speed-based damage reduction and also makes her a great option for Speed Smoke 4. Following Gustav is one of the many axe calves we got this year. He has some good things going for him, such as a built-in special fighter and cooldown reduction. The biggest thing that holds back Gustav from the higher tiers is the annoying condition on his guaranteed follow-up attack and the fact that fast cap units tend to be better than slow ones. Wallheart got one hell of a refine. He's easily become one of the best axe calves in the game, and the best part is he's free to play. What makes Wallheart stand out amongst axe calves has to be the support he can offer, via his flash meta skill, which also debuffs enemies' attack and defense. This effect makes Wallheart into a must-kill enemy, as his debuff can completely cripple your team and make it easy for your opponents to pick off your units one by one. We have yet another axe cav, this time it's going to be Harmonic Sheeta. Sheeta is an all-star in Gale Force teams. This is largely due to her harmonic skill, which can grant another action to heroes from Fire Emblem 1 or Heroes. In my opinion, Sheeta's biggest flaw is how squishy she can be. Due to her lack of damage reduction and lower defensive stats, she can often die to a counterattack before she can even get her double in, especially at lower merges. Our final axe cav in A tier is going to be the mythic hero Oder. Oder is a decent defense mythic, but I'd say his best place is in summoner duels. His pre-charged Brutal Shell PRF special allows him to put out a ton of damage, and his Canto 3 can allow him to easily escape and return where he came from. If paired up with Pathfinder, Oder can zoom across the whole map when retreating. My biggest problem with Oder is his over-reliance on his special. If the enemy team runs a pulse tie, or Oder just gets pulse smoked, he loses a ton of power, and can underperform compared to other Axe Cavalry units. Let's move on to our first red hero in A tier, Rid. Rid is an interesting legendary hero. He was meant to be an Omni tank, a role he can do decently well, but where Rid really shines is as a support unit. Freezing Steel 2 can completely shut down enemy teams as it not only applies a debilitating attack and defense debuff, but most importantly, guard. This can stop many of the top tier offensive units who are reliant on their specials from breaking through your save tanks or raid bosses. As a combat unit, Rid can pack a punch, but he's heavily reliant on debuffs, and falls apart if the enemy has no follow-up, which has become much more common nowadays. Up next is our newly refined red beast, Lethe. Lethe can offer up a ton of damage due to her special acceleration and Woe Dao-esque effect, which offers 10 true damage when her special triggers. You combine these two effects with offensive no follow-up and the Cavalry Beast transformation, and you're left with a deadly beast Cav. The God of Flame himself, Muspel, lands in A tier. Base Muspel offers some powerful support, mostly via his preference C skill, Domain of Flame, which can give Muspel himself and allies within 2 spaces a nice chunk of true damage alongside 4 attack and 4 defense. What holds Muspel back is the lack of guaranteed follow-up attack, which means he can struggle to kill. Even so, Muspel can prove to be a great support unit and a decent tank with his high bulk and access to Dragon Ball. Our first rearmed hero, Lif, is going to end up in A tier. Rearmed Lif is in my opinion the best cavalry user of his own weapon. The weapon itself is ridiculously powerful, but it truly shines when combined with Lif's preference skills, Open the Future and Deadly Balance. Open the Future allows Lif to pump out damage while also keeping himself healthy. My biggest problem with Lif is that he is slow, and Deadly Balance's special acceleration is only tied to the foe's attack, which makes using Open the Future a bit clunky on player phase. Pan stands out largely due to the ridiculous amount of stats her weapon offers, alongside powerful mixed phase effects such as Cavalry Effectiveness, Guaranteed Follow-up Attack, Guard, and even 7 true damage. All these effects let Pan be a mobile, mixed-phased monster. Geralt, a long-awaited fan favorite, proves to be an amazing free-to-play Lance Cav. Fortunately, Geralt came with one hell of a preference weapon that essentially made him into a better Dwessel. Geralt can be a strong combat unit with his guaranteed follow-up attack, but it's the combination of his combat and support that makes him a standout. His support can inflict an attack, defense, and panic debuff on the enemy team, but the best part is there's no HP condition, meaning Geralt doesn't need to stack any HP and instead can use offensive skills to make his combat even more deadly. Ingrid is essentially Roderick on crack. She has special cooldown reduction, a fire sweep effect based off speed, 20% speed based true damage. This allows Ingrid to be a powerful nuke who can be difficult to deal with, especially since no counter disrupt has fallen out of the meta, with the only premier unit who has it is Ascended Fjorm, but her NCD doesn't work against melee units. Some things that hold Ingrid back is the lack of attack boost in her weapon, lack of offensive no follow-up, or Canto. This means that Ingrid needs to run a flow skill in her B slot, which means she can't run a trace skill, which can be a downside for a cavalry unit. Niffle has proven to be a powerful support and combat unit. Personally, I love her on Ether Raid's defense, as she can not only offer damage reduction, speed, and resistance through her preference C-skill Domain of Ice, but also she can flash the enemy team, stopping them from counterattacking. This can make it difficult to tank for the enemy team, while also making it difficult to crack because of the extra layers of damage reduction Niffle provides. Our final hero in A tier is going to be Legendary Ephraim. Ephraim is extremely versatile. He can do a great job as a Gale Forcer, a melee tank, a hit and run unit, or even just as a nuke. His kit offers him almost everything he needs with special acceleration, anti-guard, healing, Canto, and a ton of stats. Ephraim can struggle against no follow-up units, but even so, Ephraim's remix has transformed him into one of the best Lance units in the game, which is impressive considering he's from year 2. We have finally made it to S tier. This tier is composed of some of the very best cavalry units in the game. Many of these units are the best at their respective roles, or have unique effects that make them stand out amongst their peers. First up is going to be one of the legendary lords of Fire Emblem 7, Eliwood. Legendary Eliwood is a top tier support unit. His preference C-skill, Vision of Arcadia, offers an attack, defense, and bonus doubler buff, but what really makes it stand out is that it has a global range, meaning Eliwood can be completely on the opposite side of the map and still offer extremely powerful support. If you want to use a smite build, Eliwood can easily offer +6 to all stats, or if you prefer to take advantage of his global range, he can easily make use of seals like resistance or speed opening as long as the target fulfills the conditions. The best part about Legendary Eliwood is he is due for a remix very soon, which means he will only be getting better. Let's all hope Intelligent Systems doubles down on his support capabilities and doesn't give him an offensive refund. Speaking of supports, next up is the God of Life herself, Ymir. Everyone expected Ymir's miracle to be the reason she would be broken, but in reality it's the plethora of support she can offer. Now don't get me wrong, the miracle can be great in certain situations, like avoiding one-shots from lethality or deadeye, but a lot of the time what makes Ymir a powerhouse is the healing and penalty neutralization her weapon can offer. In summoner duels, it can remove annoying things like panic, guard debuff, and exposure. The best part is, she can offer all the support while also packing a punch. Legendary Xander was one of the many Axe Cavalry heroes released this year. Legendary Xander is definitely a powerful unit between his no follow-up, special acceleration, and immense tankiness. Xander can be a difficult hero to take down, but because he is built to be a mixed phase unit, he does lack compared to some other heroes. Xander cannot compare to real tanks like armored save tanks or omni tanks like Brave Dimitri. On the other hand, Xander lacks an offensive power that many other heroes have, including heroes who are higher in the tiers on this list. Overall, Legendary Xander is a great unit, but I would say he isn't quite as good as some of the other cavalry units who came out this year. On release, Legendary Erica was an interesting unit, but quickly fell off. Fortunately for all the Erica fans, Legendary Erica got an amazing remix and refine that has turned her into a powerful sword cav. Erica has almost all the things needed to be a top tier offensive cavalry unit. She has full no follow-up, Canto 2, defense-based true damage, damage reduction, and even special acceleration. Erica can essentially do everything, and can even be an excellent mixed phase unit. Legendary Erica isn't in higher tiers only due to two real reasons. First, she's missing the slaying effect in her weapon, and is weak to guard. But most importantly, Intelligent Systems released two utterly broken sword calves this year that overshadow Legendary Erica. Kaden has been amazing support since release. His ability to essentially share his buffs with his allies within two spaces has always been good, but his refine really took it to another level. With the focus on powerful specials and special acceleration this year, Guard has become one of the most important effects for a tank to have. And luckily for Kaden, he got Drive Guard built into his weapon refine. This transformed Kaden into not only one of the better stat supports in the game, but into one of the best supports overall. Now Kaden isn't perfect, his weapon requires him to have visible buffs to share with his allies, which does mean he has a few hoops to jump through. First, you need a way to visibly buff Kaden himself, which isn't difficult, but is something to consider. The other major factor is his weakness to panic, as if he does get panicked, then his buff supports disappear. This is why I personally like stacking a bit of HP on him, so he can avoid those annoying panic manners easier. The competition between Lance Cavalry has become ridiculous this year. There are just so many powerful units, but even so, Brave Eliwood has found a way to stand out amongst his peers. Brave Eliwood's two standout points are his effectiveness against dragons and beasts, which is proven to be more relevant every single month as more and more dragons are released. And second is his damage reduction. These two things allow Brave Eliwood to be a versatile unit. You can make him into a full offensive threat like in the build I'm showing right now, which will allow him to tear through common meta threats. If you want, you can even run a wind sweep or water sweep build due to his offensive no follow-up. If that isn't your cup of tea, you can run a mixed phase Brave Eliwood that doubles down on damage reduction. It's also possible to even run a distant counter build on Brave Eliwood if you're interested by making use of distant dart, though I wouldn't recommend this build unless your Brave Eliwood is heavily invested. Regan was a god tier free to play gift. She's one of the most versatile mythics in the entire game, as she can literally offer help in any situation. Need help clearing those buildings? Repositioning allies, or even just sniping annoying foes? Regan's got you covered. Canto 3 is just a ridiculous effect that allows Regan to run around the map like she owns the place. Then there's Satyr's Shell that allows Regan to pop enemies, then retreat to safety. Nowadays, Regan can struggle to kill some of the more tanky meta threats, especially at lower merges, and she also has some extremely stiff competition, which keeps her from the higher tiers. Our final unit in S tier is going to be Flame Moosebell. Flame Moosebell showed up and essentially fixed all the problems base Moosebell had, while also adding a ton more true damage. Flame Moosebell can completely destroy enemies. Pre-charge specials are one hell of a drug, and when you combine that with a 3 movement adaptive damage cav, damage reduction halving, and a true damage preference skill, you have one hell of a unit. Some of the coolest things is combining Moosebell with Fallen Indian, so he can have 4 movement and just run over other units, or giving him extra special cooldown so he can run specials like Bonfire. The only downside I've found with Moosebell is his weakness to no follow-up, as if he isn't able to one-shot, he can lose matchups without the double. We have now reached double S tier, and in my opinion, these units are broken. All of these units have effects that just make them ridiculous and typically have very few weaknesses. All of these units are powerhouse cavalries and could easily be argued to be the best in their respective weapon type and movement combos. Let's get started off with Summer Niffle. Summer Niffle is what happens when you remove some of the support effects in Niffle and just invest them all into offense. The combination of a fire sweep effect plus no follow-up and adaptive damage is a difficult one to deal with, especially when it's on a cavalry unit. Summer Niffle is just a perfect combination of support and offensive power. She can easily threaten the enemy team while also offering that critical damage reduction to your far safe tank, often keeping them from dying. Just like Flame Muspel, Summer Niffle really takes it to 11 when you combine her with Fallen Ninian, as she becomes a lethal unit who can not only safely smash through enemies, but also retreat with the trace skill. Summer Niffle is truly a standout unit, and one I unfortunately underestimated until I had the displeasure of facing her head on. What's there to say, Legendary Sigurd is the unit who almost broke the meta. Nowadays he can struggle with winning some matchups, especially due to all the null follow-up running around, but Holy Knight Aura is just one of the most ridiculous specials to ever be released. It allows Sigurd to be a unit who can never be underestimated as he zooms around the entire map with his forward movement. But more importantly, the second he procs that special, the whole team will be on top of you, threatening lethal violence. Even with the introduction of another 4 movement cavalry unit, Legendary Sigurd proves his value with some of the most powerful support in the entire game. The winner of Choose Your Legends 5 has definitely proven to be Brave FM2. I mean Brave Erica. Brave Erica is just a complete powerhouse of a unit. She has everything you want for an offensive cavalry unit, from offensive no follow-up, massive true damage, armor and cavalry effectiveness, anti-guard, damage reduction, and even Canto 2. Erica has proven to be a menace throughout her first year, and is arguably still the best offensive Lance Cav in the entire game. While there has been some additional competition this year, Brave Erica is still a hero you should be fearing, as she can tear through a majority of the heroes in the game. After years of waiting, we have finally gotten a legitimately good Roy ult. I know it's been painful, but he's finally here. Harmonic Roy is everything we could have wanted and more. He's a nuke dressed up in his best suit, and he's ready to slay some dragons and beasts, which is a good thing considering how many meta dragons have arrived just this year. Beside his dragon and beast effectiveness, what's great about Harmonic Roy is how complete his toolkit is. He has access to offensive no follow-up, special cooldown, a full tempo effect, attack and speed penalty neutralization, and a ton of stats. While typically new units get +5 to all stats, Roy can effectively get up to +11. And when you combine this with Roy's I win button in the form of his harmonic ability, Roy can unleash a true damage nuke on the enemy, carving through many of the most powerful tanks in the game. If this was any other year, Harmonic Roy would easily be the best Axe Cav in the entire game, but due to one other unit, I'll say it's a tie. Intelligence Systems knew the player base was thirsty, so they blessed us with Summer Dimitri, who quenched our thirst in more ways than one. While Harmonic Roy has all the key meta abilities for an Axe Cav, Intelligence Systems just looked at Dimitri and said, what if we combined a full might brave weapon with 25% true damage? As ridiculous as that sounds, that's exactly what makes Summer Dimitri such an offensive juggernaut. Getting hit twice in the face with 25% true damage and typically a special on the second hit is usually enough to kill almost everything. The cool part is that's not where it ends. Summer Dimitri also gets some built-in Canto, and Atrocity leaves a nasty debuff on the enemy team, making it even more difficult for them to get revenge. After all, if they don't one-shot Dimitri, he'll most likely retaliate with another brave slap to the face. Summer Dimitri is just one scary Axe Cav, and definitely not a hero you want to underestimate. The final unit of double S tier is going to be the long-awaited Brave Crom. Brave Crom is a very unique hero. While he does have some common cavalry traits such as special cooldown, special acceleration, and access to trace skills, what makes Crom stand out is his ability to nearly infinitely scale. Unlike many other preference weapons that may only grant +5 to all stats, or maybe even +10 for older units, Brave Crom's weapon technically has no cap. Instead it gives +5, then additional stats based off how many bonuses or penalties are active on Crom. This means in the right team, Crom can get massive stat swings. Realistically, this isn't always possible, but even being able to get +9 to all stats can be a big deal, and can allow Crom to win speed matchups he has no right to win, even at low merges. The cool thing is, that isn't Brave Crom's only unique effect, as he also has a Fate Change, a preference assist skill, which allows him to copy the bonuses of allies he repositions. This allows Crom to get all kinds of cool effects like extra movement, null follow-up, and so many others. The major problem Crom does have is his reliance on a Fate Change for effects like null follow-up, which can make him a bit more difficult to use compared to other premier cavalry units. But it also allows Crom to be a premier mobility support unit, which lands him in double S tier. The long await is finally over. We have finally made it to triple S tier, and in my opinion, the 3 best melee cavalry heroes in the entire game. Now you may have noticed through my tier list that offensive cavalry units have been doing better than defensive ones for the most part. This is largely due to the fact that cavalry units do worse as tanks, but do exceptionally well as nukes and supports. This is largely due to their high threat range. So when it comes to the top 3 heroes, they are the units who are the most powerful melee nukes that we have, alongside some of the best support. I'm going to start with one of our newest cavalry units, Legendary Ninian. I have seen so many people sleeping on this unit. Legendary Ninian is the Yuri of this year. Everyone pretends they knew she was broken to begin with, but the reality is no one is talking about her yet. I've seen so many people argue that she doesn't offer as much support as Fallen Ninian or the Azuras, but what they don't understand is that is not Ninian's role. She's a dancer who is out for blood. She's a cold-blooded killer. The reason why that works so well is because she's a cavalry unit, which is the optimal movement type for an offensive and supportive dancer. So let's break down why Legendary Ninian is just stupid good. First, her weapon offers a sweep effect if she has weapon traveling advantage, or a penalty is active on the foe. While that would be good in itself, what makes it crazy good is that Ninian provides a debuff whenever she dances. Now all of that would go to waste if Ninian wasn't offensively powerful, but Legendary Ninian has a great offensive stat line, gets more attack and speed from her weapon, has offensive no follow-up, debuffs the enemy's defense and resistance while buffing her own attack and speed. This means that when Ninian dances, she causes a massive stat swing of 12 attack and 6 speed, and when you combine that with her weapon's inert stats, that's 18 attack and 12 speed, just from her weapon and dance. That's not even counting all the stat bonuses from her skills. This essentially makes Legendary Ninian into Summer Nipple, but she's a dancer. The crazy thing is, that's not even the best part. We haven't even discussed Dragon's Dance, which lets Ninian refresh her own action after dancing. First, let's address the cooldown. Now a cooldown of 3 turns seems long, but because the cooldown is reduced on the first turn you use it, in reality it's only 2 cooldown, which is amazing. It means you can make use of it twice in Summoner Duels and a few times in Ether Raids. The big things is, this dance makes Ninian into one of the most mobile units in the entire game. It allows Ninian to travel across the entire map without even being reliant on Wings of Mercy, which means she can get even more movement with a trace skill. Overall, when you look at Legendary Ninian, you get a dancer with essentially a free Gale Force, a top tier nuke, a highly mobile support, an anti-vantage unit, and a dragon, which means she has great synergy with some of the best meta units like Ascended D'Thun or Halloween Duma. I look forward to all the posts talking about how broken she is in a couple of months. The next unit is what happens when IS focuses all the hero's power on one thing: damage. Legendary Nana is one of the premier damage dealers in the entire game. She has all the essential things such as no follow-up, true damage, and even a desperation effect where she can double before the foe can counter. What really makes Nana stand out is that she can completely ignore damage reduction effects, such as from skills like Close Call or Dragon's Wall, and she can even disable defensive specials from proccing. This makes Nana disgustingly good against the majority of the meta tanks, who typically rely on these effects. The only real thing Nana struggles with are tanks who stack defense and get true defense effects, so units like Asker or Brave Dimitri. Overall, Nana is just a ridiculously powerful nuke, and considering that is Cavalry's best role, it makes her a top tier hero. The final hero on this tier list, and the hero I would consider the best Melee Cavalry hero in the entire game, is going to be Brave Seliph. Brave Seliph is just stupid. He's one of, if not the most, difficult hero to tank in the entire game. His weapon can offer him a whopping 40% true damage based off the foe's defense. That's double the amount of true damage compared to Legendary Nana's, and it scales off the foe's defense, which is typically better than scaling off the unit's attack stat. But that's just the beginning. He also has Canto 2, and most importantly, a miracle effect. No, I should say a really damn good miracle effect. Unlike Ymir's, which has a dynamic HP condition, Seliph's miracle effect is set at the beginning of combat, which means as long as Seliph has more than 25% HP at the start of combat, he will get miracle. This makes it extremely difficult to kill Seliph in one round of combat, and the second reason for that is his preference C skill, Air to Light, which grants him full speed-based no follow-up, plus 6 visible attack and speed, and an extra space of movement. This means that more often than not, the enemy won't be able to double, and because of the miracle effect, they aren't killing Seliph in one shot either. This means Seliph is free to Canto away after destroying an enemy, or he can even get danced by Wings of Mercy Dancer and continue his rampage. This makes Seliph not only into possibly the most powerful nuke in the entire game, but also one of the most difficult heroes to kill. That's not even considering his immortal build I'm showing you now, which can heal him for 12 HP after combat, constantly keeping Seliph in his miracle range. Seliph is just a complete abomination of a unit who is good in every game mode, and in a plethora of strategies, from hit and run with his high movement, to Gale Force where he can act as an initiator and Wings of Mercy beacon, to Summoner Duels where he can threaten half the map. Brave Seliph is easily one of the best heroes in the entire game right now, and in my opinion, is the best Melee Cavalry in Fire Emblem heroes. With that, my Melee Cavalry tier list is complete. 85 Melee Cavalry heroes ranked from SSS all the way down to E. What do you think of my tier list? Would you move a few heroes up or down a tier, or maybe you think there's a Melee Cavalry who is better than Seliph? Either way, I'd love to hear your opinions, so make sure to leave a comment down below. I'd also love to hear about your favorite Melee Cavalry hero. So make sure to tell me all about them in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. It will help to make sure you see all my new videos right when they drop, so you don't miss out on the newest Fae updates, tier list, and showcases. Also, if you want to hear my hottest takes, follow me over on Twitter at Oblivion Knight. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.